All right, good afternoon. I want to thank all of the media and all of our citizens for coming out to the Dr. John Bryant Center. This is one of the City of Racine's jewels in terms of community centers, where many of our youth here in the City of Racine and even outside of the City of Racine come here for services, not only for recreational opportunities, but for educational opportunities and much, much more. So I really appreciate everybody coming here to talk about just how violence is affecting our entire community, and kind of how we're going to move forward on a united front and address some of those concerns that we all have and all rightfully should have. But before we do that, I just want to introduce Nikita Hamer. She's the state lead for Voices of Black Mothers United, and Tanya Wooden, a mother also with Voices of Black Mothers United. So if you would come up and just please share some thoughts and just what this issue is in terms of how meaningful for it is for our community. Thank you, Nikita.
Good afternoon. My name is Nikita Hamer. I am the state lead for Voices of Black Mothers United. VBMU is a national unity of mothers who have lost children to gun violence. Our mission is to provide advocacy because with the extreme levels of violence that we've been experiencing all over the world, there are a lot of hurting people. There's a lot of pain in our community. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of trauma that's going unaddressed, and we believe that hurt people hurt people. What is our mission? That in our belief that when we help the mother heal, the people around her can heal, and then our community will get healed. I represent the sibling population. I also lost a brother to gun violence. So it's very, very dear to my heart. It's not anything that I'm just speaking of because of what I'm seeing in the news. I also lived and experienced it. And grief is a lifelong process. There's really no way or no manual, but it takes us coming together. Through this BBMU initiative here in Racine, I plan to do more acting and talking, so I won't be long-winded. But I do have a lot of initiatives, a lot of community intervention, family intervention efforts that I plan to execute right here in Racine. I have already identified and began working with several mothers who have acknowledged that healing, who have started their process. And we all want to stand united with anyone who's experienced any type of violence, any loss, any type of violence in the community, in your home. If you are a community member who hasn't experienced it, but you are willing to be a part of that change, if you would like to volunteer, if you would like to serve, if you would like to be of service, please reach out. We are looking, we are moving, we are acting. I would now like to turn it over to Ms. Tanya Wooding and Antoinette Hicks.
Hello, and thank you, Nikita, for reaching out to us to give us an opportunity to have a voice. It's been 5 years for me and only 3 months for her. So having an opportunity to be heard and to speak is very important. So I thank you and thank all that invited us. I don't speak as well as she does. I have mine. I have it written down, so I'm gonna read what I wrote because it came from my heart. And it's just what I wanted to say today. So they say silent people get nothing, but organized people get results. I am here today, we are here today because we have been silent long enough, and we are overwhelmingly tired as others who are here today of the violence and the senseless murders in our community, and we are here ready and organized to do more through this new collaborative effort Racine County has that's called Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. I am here today, we are here today because we know that if we want a safer community to live in, we need to make and be responsible for it and make every effort to be a part of it. I am here today because I know if we don't take responsibility, others will continue to decide what we need and what we will or will not get. I am here today because I know the change we desire has to include us. So when I was asked by Voices of Mothers United to come to the table to talk to law enforcement, city and county government officials, and the district attorney's office about strategies and solutions for our community, one that I love this community. I didn't immediately say yes because of my previous history with some of the entities. However, I was open to listen, and through further conversation, I was able to hear their sincere desire for a solution. Some of the questions they posed to me was, what can we do better? And how can we prevent from any ongoing crime in Racine County? Those were important questions to me. My response: transparency, accountability, and a sincere desire to change. And I know to get there, we need to be active and involved in the community and government process. And from what I have seen, this initiative is attempting to do that. This is what I know. We need law enforcement to serve and protect our community and not be a part of the problem. We need community programs, and I understand we, not just me, need to be at the table when the decisions are being made on what programs are needed and should be in our community. And I know we need community engagement, meaning more people like me, like Tony, ready to have the conversation and do the work necessary to see sustainable change in our city. So with that being said, I said yes. And so as far as my yeses, it brought me to the table with all that you see up here, government officials, business, community partners, all who are willing and ready to do the work. Now, what are we going to do? Here's my request. If you know something, see something, please say something. Don't be afraid to help or stop the ignorant violence in our community. Contact your trusted community leaders or liaisons, or even the local law enforcement department. There are some good ones out there. We are the first line of defense in helping prevent many of these senseless acts of violence. Everything starts somewhere, so when we hear, see things that could possibly lead or have led to unfortunate situations and tragedies, please contact somebody. Please say something. And let me say this. Let me clear this up. It is not called snitching if you are saving a life or lives. Period. Again, if you know something, see something, say something. It hurts us when you don't. To other mothers and families who are suffering and still grieving in silence from all the violence that has taken place in our community, please contact Nikita from Racine County Voices of Mothers United to get the resources and support that they have to offer. They're here to help you through the process, here to help you heal, here to help you have a voice. And last but not least, let me end by saying this. I am the mother of Harry T. Kennedy Jr., who was senselessly murdered on 5/7/2017 in the city of Racine. I represent him, I represent Desmond, I represent Marquis, I represent Jay Black, I represent the many that are close to me. And Day and all, I represent those who have been senselessly murdered. We are their voice now. We are the voice of justice for them. And to all others who have been senselessly murdered, resulting in their untimely death. And if I can say it again, if you know something, if you see something, please, please say something.
The only thing I'm gonna say is, we gotta do better as a community, but as today, something, say something, speak up. I mean, it's not gonna stop if you don't say something. And we're losing lives, and we always point the finger at someone else. But look, remember, you got 3 pointing back at you, because you know more than you're saying. Everybody needs to speak up, and we can't hide behind a badge. We all are a team. We gotta come together collectively, or it's not gonna stop. And I am the cousin of Deshante King. And we're waiting for answers for that as well. I can't justify, can't explain. You say you got body cameras. I want to see that as well. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, but I wait to pass judgment. But I do want answers in both cases. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you both. You're going to hear from a number of speakers just on talking about the violence that we've experienced as a community recently, and then you're going to hear about some immediate responses to that as United Front. But what I want to say to the 200,000 people of Racine County, it is your inherent right, and I want to be clear, it is your inherent right to live in a safe community, in a safe neighborhood, no matter where you live, whether it's the eastern part of Racine County, the western part, north to the Milwaukee County line, or south to the Kenosha County line. You have an inherent right. Where you live, where you work, where you send your children to school, where you worship, and where you have where you choose to have recreational opportunities, it's your inherent right to be safe. And that's the line in the sand that the county's drawing today, that we're going to do everything we can in a multi-pronged approach to do our best to make sure that we honor your right to live in a safe neighborhood and community. I'm going to be introducing the mayor up next, and then it'll be district attorney and then the law enforcement agencies to kind of walk through what we're doing in the short term, and then we'll take questions, and then the mayor will conclude the press conference. But again, to the 200,000 people of Racine County, we hear you, and we're going to do everything we can that everybody has that inherent right to live in a safe community and neighborhood. With that, I'm going to introduce Mayor Mason.
Well, thank you, County Executive Delegrave, and thank you everyone for being here. This is an important and critical foundational first step to addressing the crime that we've been seeing in our community. What you're going to hear about from the speakers ahead of us is how the city and county and community groups are going to combine efforts and resources to do the work that we need to do to work more collaboratively to address the crime that we're seeing in the community that is on the rise this year. And so, along with the county, the city is committed here today to working collaboratively wherever we can, whenever we can, multiple levels of government, be that city, county, federal, other resources that are available. And again, those discussions from those community members about how important it is to work with the community, about what interventions they believe are important. Those are conversations that are critically important to successfully stemming the violence that we're seeing here. So, as mayor, I want to echo the county executive's commitments in terms of what we want to see as a safe community. It is critically important. It is a foundational piece of people being able to live a safe and healthy life. It's something that we're all deeply committed to. The collaboration that we're going to talk about today really underscores an important point. We are stronger when we are combining our efforts and working collaboratively than we are separately. And I think, as we've said previously, and we'll say again, it is going to take all of us coming together at the local level, at the county level, bringing in state and federal resources where we can, but really being genuine and authentic partners with the community who are hurting. We're hearing loud and clear from people who are losing loved ones and are worried about their safety. And so we are deeply committed to doing what I think is the most important and foundational first step of several to come to make sure we're improving public safety here in the city of Racine. It is my opportunity and pleasure to introduce the Racine County District Attorney, Tricia Hansen.
Like Ms. Wooden, I'm going to read today because I have a lot
lot of things I want to get out, and I don't want to miss anything. Because the reason we're here today is so incredibly important. These are trying times for our community. I am grateful to all of the partners that you see here today who are coming together in ways that have never been tried before in Racine County to restore safety to our neighborhoods. No one office or agency can do this work alone. And none of us can meet the goals of this initiative without the cooperation of the community. As you have already heard today, when you see something, say something. Help us take illegal guns away from criminals and gangs. Help us get those guns off the street. While it is the job of the district attorney to obtain justice for victims and their families, I am committing today, here and now, to increasing transparencies with interested and affected parties in our pending cases. I'm committing to increasing transparency with the community when I am able on cases that have not been charged. I am committed to earning the trust that needs to exist between my office and the public. For those of you who doubt, I am asking you for an open mind. Hear what I have to say and let me earn your trust. Myself and the Victim Witness Office that is a part of my office will be changing how we make contact with the surviving families of homicide. We want to ensure that we make those connections sooner. The response will be immediate after the crime is committed. Our Victim Witness Office will also be partnering with these amazing women who bear their hearts before you today from the Voices of Black Mothers United to ensure that all the families of murder victims know there are others out there who truly understand the depth of your grief and how to recover from it, to offer advice and support, and to help lead the way out of a family's darkest hour. In partnership with the Voices of Black Mothers United, I'm also forming an advisory group of mothers who have lost a loved one. I'm a mother. I think we have commonality that brings us together. They will be a new voice for what is happening in our community and be there to tell us what the criminal justice system can do to prevent gun violence. Fathers, siblings, and other family members will be encouraged to reach out to this group so their voices are also heard. Stopping violence starts at home, and honest conversations with the people who care the most about our young people, the mothers, is where I believe we begin. All parents and families should know that I am committed to the youth of our community by offering opportunities to divert nonviolent offenses away from the criminal justice system in an effort to prevent recidivism and forge better paths to success. The trifecta of this law enforcement response, community engagement, and community programming will ensure that we are all winners in the fight to end the violence on our streets. Please join us and support these efforts and this collaboration to make our neighborhoods safe again.
Good afternoon. My name is James Widener. I'm the Chief Deputy for the Racine County Sheriff's Office. Unfortunately, the Sheriff is unable to be with us today. He's currently out of the county attending an awards ceremony for an investigator that was involved from our agency that was involved in a critical incident last year. The recent escalation in gun violence that has been experienced has had a heavy impact on our community. An issue of this complexity and magnitude impacts everyone and requires a whole community response. Law enforcement is just one component of this community-wide initiative. We will be collaborating with the City of Racine Police Department and other law enforcement agencies throughout the county, as well as the region, to coordinate a specialized enforcement effort to target those individuals that are engaged in violent behavior. As we move forward with this initiative, we look forward to working shoulder to shoulder with all the key stakeholders within city government, county government, and the community to address and mitigate this community-wide problem that we're currently facing. The key to this initiative is going to be unity of purpose as we move forward to create the community that we all desire. Truly one where everyone is safe, to peacefully go to school, work, live their lives, and raise their families. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Assistant Chief Ramirez.
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Ramirez. I'm the Assistant Chief of the Racine Police Department. Thank you all for speaking here. There's some fine words everyone has said. As you can see, you already know, the City of Racine is currently seeing a drastic increase in firearm-related calls. The increase is something that cannot be taken lightly. As of this morning, the data shows that there's been a 42% increase in shots fired compared to this time last year. There's been a 90% increase in non-fatal shootings year-to-date compared to this time last year. And there's been 6 homicides compared to 3 homicides compared to this time last year. Those 6 homicides this year are gun-related or firearm-related. Last year, we had hired a crime analyst who came over from the Wisconsin Department of Justice. That person has been an invaluable asset in determining who, what, when, and where these gun-violent crimes and other crimes are occurring. We are currently utilizing multiple counterintelligence resources to combat our gun crimes throughout our jurisdiction. The Racine Police Department's goal and objectives are to use modern-day, proactive, intelligence-led policing tactics to combat criminals that are using our city as a central place of operation. Working alongside the Racine County Sheriff's Office and our other partners, we as an organization will be developing our resources in an intelligence-led manner. This will include a tactical focused patrol approach based on our analyst data. We as a community and we as the Racine Police Department not only have the duty, but an obligation to continue to protect all the citizens in all the corners of this fine city. Finally, again, the Racine Police Department is highly encouraged and driven to have the Racine County Sheriff's Office join us. Working together will allow our resources to proactively address violent crime based on intelligence-led data. We are extremely appreciative of our Racine County partners, those who have spoken here today, as well as the Racine Women for Racial Justice, Racine Neighborhood Watch, who are giving their valuable time to make our community safe. We as a community, law enforcement, and local government will continue to serve the citizens of Racine community to the best of our ability.
Thank you. So I hope you can take away from today before we get questions, and then the mayor's gonna wrap us up, is that we're all standing before you here. Those of you in the room and those of you that are watching online or will be watching later on, that violence is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form, and we're going to do everything as a united front to combat that for the 200,000 people of Racine County. With that, we will take questions, and feel free, I'll just triage the questions, and then when, again, the questions are done, the mayor's gonna wrap us up. So is there any questions from anybody?
Yeah, you guys said that the Sheriff's Office and Racine Police are gonna be collaborating more. What does that mean? I think some people at home might think you guys already work together, so can you just explain what that looks like?
So for the law enforcement component of this overall initiative, we're going to be identifying a number of Sheriff's Office personnel that are going to be dedicated to working with dedicated staff from the Racine Police Department to directly focus on the violent crime that the community is experiencing at this time.
So just more bodies?
Directly dedicated to this specific problem.
I think one thing that we hear a lot of is releasing body camera footage either immediately or faster. Is that on the table? Is that something that the Sheriff's Office or the Police Department is working to do?
So while I know there's a lot of pressure from the media to release those body cameras, That's not always in the best interest of pursuing justice. So if you release a body camera and I'm looking for witnesses to an incident, and now you influence those witnesses, or you're influencing the potential pool of jurors that we have to hear the case in circuit court, I can't take that risk. So body camera is evidence just like any other piece of evidence. We don't let people pass around the guns that we recover. We don't let people investigate and hold on to evidence that is in the custody of law enforcement. So families will have a different response, but as far as the public and the media, that cannot happen until cases have been adjudicated.
I have a question with regards to that. You said that there are individuals that cannot receive or look at the body cam information, but I know last year when there was an active case that was going on with the death of individuals that was in the county jail, Sheriff Smalling, he had evidence, he had access to that information, and his department was under investigation at that time. So can you explain how there may be, it seems to the public, a difference in who can see information and who can't if they are all under investigation?
Sheriff Smalling and I actually had quite a discussion about that, and we respectfully disagree. I don't think that should have been released, and it certainly should not have been released in the manner in which it was.
Is there going to be any training for the sheriff or law enforcement that is going to increase their ability to apprehend suspects without death? Because that has been an increase lately.
Definitely an increase. Definitely an increase.
So I can tell you that there are specific standards that come out from the state of Wisconsin. There is not a police officer in this county who doesn't continuously train those efforts. So there is already ongoing training on how to use lethal methods of force.
Did you say lethal or less lethal?
Less lethal.
Okay.
Less lethal methods of force.
Uh-huh.
And so that training is continuously ongoing and happening as we speak.
Was the training for the officer that shot King going on last week?
I can't speak to that today.
Okay, because residents of Racine are interested in understanding how our law enforcement individuals are trained. And as a county board supervisor, I actually support the training of the sheriff, but I really would like to make sure that the resources that are going into that training is actually being done for the officers and that we can see it.
Okay. I would give you as a place to start, the Wisconsin Department of Justice puts out all the training that's required by the state. Every agency complies with that training list, and then specific records about specific training done in each agency would come from the agencies.
Other questions?
I have a question for law enforcement, if I may. My question regards targeting neighborhoods. If we could revisit history just for a moment in the 80s and 90s when we had an increase in violent crime, what we saw, what followed that was mass incarceration of young black men. And I want to know what safeguards are in place to ensure that while you're targeting violent crime, a lot of other people don't get swept up in that, so that we see another sharp increase in the arrest of young black men. Young black men in this community have said to me they are very nervous when they see law enforcement start to talk about getting tough on crime. They fear that's getting tough on young black men.
Very good.
That's why they run. That's
Very
why they
good.
run, because they're gonna die.
I appreciate your question and I understand the question where you're coming from. The mission of this initiative is we have a lot of violence in the city of Racine, especially the gun violence. We respect everyone's civil rights. We operate under the U.S. Constitution, the state of Wisconsin laws, and the city ordinance. We will continue to operate that way. If there are complaints of that type of violation, we are certainly here to listen to them, and those investigations will be answered to. But we will continue to operate within the law as we are sworn to.
So am I hearing you that this has not quite been discussed as part of your crackdown on violent crime, and there are not safeguards in place?
We understand the optics of what can happen. I understand it fully, especially where I came from before. So, like I said, we operate under the Constitution of the United States. There are rules, procedures that law enforcement must and will abide by.
question. So if you guys operate with the constitutional rights in mind, and not violating anybody's rights or anything, so if King did something wrong, why can't the body cam footage be released? That's in the scope of being transparent and et cetera. That was started today.
At this point, I don't even have all the information. And what I found is that when you don't release all the information, then things get misconstrued, people are misled. I want to make sure that, one, his family sees all of this first.
We haven't seen or heard
That's
anything.
when I have the information to be able to provide to them. The other thing I just want to quickly respond to Ms. Holzell's question, what's different about this initiative, what we've never had before, is this is data-driven. So we have predictive analysis based on prior offenses that will lead us to a particular corner at a particular time in the city of Racine. That's how good it is. So it's not targeting young black men walking on the street. It's targeting a street corner where there are several shootings that have happened. We're going to use data which sees no color, which sees no race. We're going to use that data to guide this new enforcement team to try and stop the violence.
But how fair is that in a segregated community? How fair is that in a segregated community?
Then we go where the gunfire is. We don't choose the places where it occurs. We're reactive in that sense. We don't proactively prevent gun violence. That's what we're trying to do as a collaboration here. But our job is to respond after the gun violence occurs. And we're hoping to have more officers, more people aware of where the problems are, to target those areas to keep the people who live there safe.
Okay, a few more questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So my question stems from a little bit of what's talked about here. Something my wife always asks me is, do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? You are right in that every one of us has the right to leave, and we need to be able to be safe where we go, but how are we going to do that? What I'm hearing and what I'm worried about is a lot of punitive efforts. Punitive efforts aren't going to change the floodgates coming in. It's just putting a bigger bowl to catch it for a little bit longer until it overflows again. How much of this effort is starting from fixing that hole in the first place? Uplifting people out of situations so that they don't go into a life where they feel like they have to find safety and protection that might come from illegitimate means, but when I'm asked to protect my family and keep them alive, I need to do something. I'm not just gonna go to jail. I'm not just going to call the police on my grandfather that might be doing something illegal, but also is giving me shelter. What I need to know from this is how much of this is gonna uplift the people who are trying to tell you every day that they need help, not more people pointing guns at them.
So part of this initiative that we're launching today is one tool in the toolbox. And we know from a preventative standpoint that we have and we are going to do more, especially reaching those individuals, whether you're a young adult or an at-risk youth, is curbing them from, in the case of a youth, to the adult court system, and in the case of an adult, obviously to reduce recidivism as much as we possibly can. So that being said, this initiative that we're talking about today is something we should all be proud of because we're united. We're all putting politics aside, okay? And we're trying to, as best we can, acknowledge that we have a violence problem and that we've got to immediately inject confidence into the people of Racine County and the City of Racine that we're committed to making it safe. Now, there's other things that go into play from a preventative standpoint. Increasing mental health access and the quality of mental health services is part of this. But we can't conflate mental health with gun violence in every manner. But we do know that's part of the solution. The other issue is that we need to establish trust, whether that's through our law enforcement, whether that's through the county executive, the district attorney, and our circuit court. And that's why all of us coming together, okay? And look, I would be remiss to say, we don't have all the answers. And that's why I'm asking the community, we're asking the community not only to help us and give us solutions, but to those who have felt like they've been turned away in the past, please come back and help us. And those of you that have ideas, please come to the table. We're not here saying we have all the answers, but we are here to say we're united. We know that we have stuff on the preventative and front end that we still need to do, but we also need to make sure that the violence immediately stops. So it's a combination, multi-pronged approach, but I think the biggest takeaway here is we're here to make the tough decisions, the heavy lifts, and we're united in doing that. In the community and county, that people that live here should feel confident and good that we're at least starting this huge step in this huge initiative. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hi. I'm glad to hear that you're concerned about transparency. I'm glad that you want to engender trust among all of our community members. But in best practice communities, both their county boards or their like county boards and their common councils or like bodies of government have passed laws that require the release of body camera footage within a particular time frame. 7 days, 5 to 7 days is typical. And if you're going to try to engender trust in this community, I think that's imperative that both the county board and the city council take those steps to pass such a measure, because without that kind of transparency, you have asked this community, Racine in the budget said $2 million over 10 years to increase our technology capabilities, including body cameras, but they're randomly looked at.
Yes.
And we need somebody who's an impartial observer to view what's happening in those body cameras, and we need them to be released to the public as part of the public's right to know.
Yes.
And when the investigation has been completed, as the Wisconsin Department of Justice, I believe, has almost completed its investigation of the King shooting last week, the family has a right to know immediately, and the public has a right to know immediately. And you can bring all of your evidence in their day of court. But what shouldn't happen is what happened last year when Malcolm James died in the jail. And we didn't get anything for months.
Yes.
So that has got to change. So if you want to have transparency, I really encourage you to enact that kind of provision in our laws that guarantee it.
And so it doesn't repeat itself.
So what I would say to this is I think that, ultimately, like I said, we're not here we don't have all the answers, but and we certainly, I won't speak for the city, but I'll speak for the county, we certainly can look at some of that, but there's also a balance in terms of the victim and their family and those who are directly impacted by a heinous violent crime and transparency. And we always have to remember that and I understand and I get it that people want to see these body cameras, and I don't think, I'll speak for myself only. We want to release that as fast as we can. But there's a lot of other dynamics that we need to be taking in consideration. And whether right, wrong, indifferent in the past, again, we're here as a united front to move forward and create as much transparency as we possibly can, whether it's law enforcement, the county executive's office, or anything in between. We're committed to that. But again, there's always a balance and there's always dynamics that need to be considered. Yes, Dave?
Will the Mount Pleasant Police Department be part of this as well?
Sure. We've been engaged in conversations with all of the chiefs of police throughout Racine County, and we're currently working with them on collaboration and information sharing.
I have a quick question. You mentioned earlier the 3 pieces to this initiative. You've only talked about the law enforcement. Can you give information about the other 2 prongs of it? Because we're hearing this law enforcement piece. What are the other 2 parts of that initiative?
Absolutely. Like I had said, the law enforcement component of this is just one piece of it. I mean, we're very aware that we are not the solution, the sole solution to this problem. What we started to create and brainstorm, coming up with an overall plan to address the violent crime that's beset the community at this point in time, we realized that we needed to really look at a whole community-wide approach. That being one, it has 3 branches overall. One branch is the Law Enforcement Violent Crimes Task Force, where we're engaging with the City of Racine Police Department, as well as countywide and regional-wide law enforcement, to really target the individuals that are engaging in the violent behavior. The second prong of the overall plan is community programming. Right? This is critically important. Within the county, HSD has a great variety of programming, and what we're looking at doing is kind of bringing the program that already exists, whether it's the city level, the county level, and the community level, and bringing it together and having those collaborations and those conversations, and being more purposeful in how we push forward with that and integrate and interact with the community on the programming. The third branch of the overall plan is community engagement. And as you can see here, we're having this conversation with you, but really what needs to take place is we need to engage with the community and have that buy-in and figure out what are the problems and then work together jointly to determine what is the solution or solutions, because there's not going to be a single solution that's out there, and really look to establish and create a roadmap of how we move forward and implement that roadmap. So bringing all 3 of these branches together is really where we feel we have to go as an overall community. Countywide, citywide, coming together. It is a unified, united front to tackle this problem. And nobody has the single answer alone by themselves, but we are putting our investment into it collectively, coming together and focusing on these 3 areas that we can come up with a workable solution to mitigate the violence that we've been experiencing.
Yes, sir, right there.
How do we measure success? How by the end of the summer or end of December do we look at this initiative and gauge whether each of you up here have done what you're setting out to do? Is it statistics? A lot of these are intangibles, so how do we measure whether you've done it?
Just as I read the statistics before, we're going to measure it afterwards too, if we had some sort of impact. Again, what's hard to measure though is when the community engagement piece. We have so many community partners in Racine. We have our cop house, we have probation parole, we have neighborhood groups that really are all a part of this. We need folks, everybody to step up to the plate. It's not just policing alone, it's not just county or city government alone, it's neighborhoods as well, it's parenting, it's schools, it's the neighborhood groups, it's the other advocacy groups that are out there to help us. We are here to work together with them, along with our government partners as well. So the measure of it would be what happens before, what happens afterwards.
Just to clarify, you're saying then that deputies and Racine police officers will be working side by side in the special patrol, similar to how the drug unit might work? Maybe?
The deputies and the Racine Police Department will be working together.
I got a question over here.
The drug unit does a whole different operation.
Okay.
This is for Mayor Mason, if we could get him to step up to the podium for a moment. Thank you, Mayor Mason. Since you've become mayor, you've systematically fed your office while systematically also defunding the police department. I believe you're down about 50 officers. Don't you believe it may be a little disingenuous and hypocritical for you to be at this meeting?
That makes no sense.
So
Yes,
I
it does.
think the need for public safety
Everybody
is critically important. Certainly the number of resources that the city's had in recent years has received real pressure from state funding restrictions that we have upon us. So we've seen a reduction in city government throughout in terms of both the state aid that we see directly and our ability to raise revenue without going to referendum. So we do need more money for city resources if we're going to help keep the community safe. I'm committed to pursuing all of those avenues as we move forward. We need resources in the community, broadly speaking. We need it in law enforcement, and we need it for these preventative efforts that we're talking about. We need it for community centers that are here, that are giving kids alternative things to do to hopefully not only improve their lives generally, but keep them away from efforts that may lead to criminal activity or make them victims of criminal activity. So it needs to be a holistic approach. It needs to be law enforcement, but it also needs to be prevention work along the lines that we talked about, and it needs to be authentic and really hear loud and clear what we've heard from the community advocates about needing resources to be there. But we have to balance the budget every year with the resources that we have, and we've seen a reduction in city government in a number of places. ARPA dollars are helping stabilize that, so we're not seeing reductions this year and in the next couple of years. But the city is in a long-term fiscal crisis that needs partners from the state of Wisconsin to help us fund our resources. The same way Milwaukee does, the same way Kenosha is asking for help from the state government. We're in that same position, and we need real partners to allow us to have an adequate funding source for public safety and other city resources if we're going to have a safe and prosperous community.
Two more questions. One right there.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to speak. It's a half question, half comment. I feel as if I represent the demographic being spoken about here. And like over the past 4 or 5 years, my experiences have led me here. But I'm reminded when I go home every day by my friends, the community, that they don't have the same opportunities I had. I made good on my opportunities, but, so I guess my question is, if you guys can speak to this, like, is there anything else that may be able to save someone like me, give me an opportunity? If you take a look around the room, like, I'm a bit of an anomaly, you know. I'm just a guy from Milwaukee, always passionate about audio, and you know, it actually took a workers' comp case to land me here, rather than that opportunity just being set out for me. I'm 36 years old. I've done a few shoots with you. I go around the state. I meet all the people, law enforcement, mayors, governors, and I just feel like I should say something because it's very hard. I go home and I'm not accepted by the community because I'm here with you guys today. I come here and I'm not accepted at work. I'm not accepted here because I'm a bit of a hip hop type of guy. So I just wanted to say that, but the question is like, something has to be done. We have to give everyone an opportunity, felon or not. Otherwise we get the mass incarceration that she spoke about.
And my answer to your question would be that this community engagement we're talking about, that we've never tried before, is exactly how we're gonna find that.
That's why I have to speak to that.
And I'm hopeful that with partners like Ms. Wooden, we'll get to know what those opportunities that are missed are and make sure everybody has that opportunity put in front of them.
And I wanted to say, I know we're spending a lot of time on the law enforcement piece, and that's not necessarily the piece that brought me here. The piece that connected me was the open conversations and the real answers I was getting from them. But also on the initiative side was helping ones like you, entrepreneurship programs. How to get real people that are successful like you to be an example, how to get business loans, how to get that money, because we got to exchange something for something. So if my street cred is important, you can't take my street cred and then give me nothing. So you know what I'm saying? So you have to allow me, cultivate those things that are in you. So the part of the initiative that they're not talking about today, which really saddens me, is that piece of it. There are real people at the table with real money and real opportunities who have been successful that are wanting to raise up those that look like you. So that is what I'm committed to. That's what I'm waiting. That's what I'm going to be at the table to make sure that those things take place. And yes, so they have spent a lot of time discussing those type of things. A lot of people in this audience are serious about allowing you and those like you that look like you. I still have a son. I have a son that's 17 years. But if I even had other opportunities, that might have changed. I have nephews. I have a whole slew of family members that I'm reaching for through this initiative to help build up, raise up. And like I said, I don't get paid by anybody up here. I'm here because I want to be a part of the change. And I believe that I can input, like many, like Tony and a lot of people that I see in the audience. We have great ideas. We can do it. We can raise up ours as well. And so that's why I am a part of this initiative. It is weeding out. We have to weed out that negativity. I want to be able to buy the car I wanna drive and want, that I wanna be able to ride anywhere that I wanna ride or have my son. Right now, I can't say I'll be too comfortable doing that. So though, I do wanna have a city, a community that looks like, but we have to build those relationships with those that are here, their willingness, they're open, they're saying, hey, give us some ideas. Bring those ideas to the table, email them, hold them accountable. Say, you said bring it, I'm bringing it. Now what?
Yes.
And there are so many city buildings that we can have opportunities like that. I would love to see I know many that like to do videos and cameras, and how can we connect with other programs and grants. But, not too long with this, but it's about weeding and seeding this initiative. Weeding out criminal activity, but seeding in programs as well. So this is just not no willy-nilly, let's all just say something to the public. This was things that were started before the recent issues. It's not something that came up overnight. These were conversations that have been taking place. However, things keep happening. So yes, we do have to weed out. Yes, I need the police officer. Yes, I need to get on the phone and call them when I feel unsafe. I absolutely do, and I will. 100, I am. But at the same time, I'm being a part of the solution and saying that I will sit at the table and help. I will give my time. I will give my energy without charging anybody anything. Because why? Because it's so near and dear to my heart. I know it was just my son and my family. I probably lost about 8. This is serious to me. This is not a joke. I'm not up here to criticize anybody. I'm up here. If you're ready to change, they made mistakes, okay? They said, let's change this. Let's shift. So guess what? I'm going, they talk to me, they talk to others, and they're keeping their word. That's important to me. So I encourage you all, yes, there's a lot of things wrong, but we as a community working together, not just honing in on the negativity, but let's come and let's work together to get the solutions, and let's build up our neighborhoods. Our babies are waiting on us. Thank you.
One last question, if there is any, and then I'm going to turn it over to the mayor to wrap up. Any other questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but my name is Van Carson, and anything I can do to help, I'll make myself available. I have a pretty open schedule now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Well, before I turn it over to the mayor, I will say that, we're all here for a united front. Violence is not going to be acceptable in Racine County, whatever your socioeconomic status, your race, where you live, you should, and like I said when I open it up, you should have the right to feel safe, and we're committed to doing that. We're committed to the outreach and public engagement and following through on this initiative from a multi-pronged approach to make sure that we're better and that we reduce violence immediately. So with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor to wrap up.
I want to thank the county executive, his attorney, and all the law enforcement individuals that are here to talk about this collaboration, this initiative. I especially want to take time to thank and acknowledge the community members that are here. It really is going to take all of us working collaboratively and authentically. I appreciate the challenge to be held accountable for that. So thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here at the Bryant Center here in the City of Racine, and I really appreciate everyone's participation and interest. We have hard work ahead of us. We are committed to working together to be stronger and make our community safe.